Hi, you guys. It's Shauna from SBell Wellness. I'm so excited to be here to share about the topic of sleep. So I want to share with you guys just the lifestyle, just some ideas around why we want to be thinking about sleep. Of course, I'll be sharing some things about oils that you can use for sleep, but I want to share some other things tonight too, because I think just some lifestyle choices are really important when we're thinking about our sleep. So there's things that we're doing during the day that really can have an impact on our sleep, and sleep is so important in so many ways. So I want to share that with you guys tonight. So you guys, sleep deprivation is really just kind of like worn as a badge of honor, I think. I think I might have said before in the past, people say all the time, like, I don't really need to sleep. I'll sleep when I'm dead, I've heard. And you guys, it's just really not good for us to have that mindset. We really can shift that and start to think about ways that we can actually make the sleep happen in our lives. And so now I'm jumping on the bandwagon with Ariana Huffington, who, if you guys know her, she, of course, started the Huffington Post, but she has Thrive Global. They go around and really help corporations really start to help people be their best selves. And she talks about sleeping your way to the top. And it's not that kind of sleeping your way to the top. It's really about making sure that we are getting the sleep that we need so that we can get to the top of wherever it is that we want to be getting ourselves. And so, generally speaking, our quality of sleep is really, really changing. And there's so many different reasons for that. And so it's really, one of the things that really impacts us is the speed of our thoughts and our talking. Our brain is kind of like doing acrobats throughout the day, right? We've got screens, we're checking emails, we're checking social media. We're doing that while we're still doing our other pieces of our life that we're doing. And so we're always kind of on this multitasking. And so our brain is really having to do those acrobats, those flips to kind of get through that. And so that really does have an impact on our sleep. The light that we are experiencing. So you guys can see I have this reflection on my glasses because I have learned that having the blue blockers on there has been a huge impact for my health. And so that's something that I've chosen to do. And so light from TV, light from screens is really having an impact on us. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. Being busy. Okay, so having those busy weekends, we start to confuse rest and recreation. And so over busying ourselves, even though those are fun things, we may need to think about those pause and kind of reset type of moments that we're having. And then trying to squeeze it all in. And so we start to really need to think about, what's the depth of the experiences we're having? Are we really having these meaningful experiences, or are we just doing to get these things done? And so those are things that are important for us as we start to think about making more time for sleep. And then we're out of sync with our body. So, it's something that we're not really in a great practice of always listening to our body. So we start to misinterpret messages. And so we misinterpret one message a lot of the time, and that's that we're hungry when we're actually tired. And so that's really starting to impact us as we make different food choices. And then we start to rely on stimulants, right? So we start to rely on those things to keep our energy where we need it to be. And those kind of things start to increase our heart rate, change our body temperature. It actually makes our cortisol go higher than it needs to at nighttime. And decreases our body's natural ability to produce melatonin. So those are all things that using those stimulants to help us throughout the day really can impact our sleep. And then food choices for sure. How much we're eating, when we're eating it, and then what we're eating. So, really those artificial, chemical that are kind of set out there for us to believe is really food can really impact our digestion. Those things are happening at night. And so those are things that we want to start being mindful of, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And why is it important in the first place? So you guys, there is actually a strong correlation between sleep and weight loss. And why is that? Because we're more likely to stress eat. when we're tired. So there really is a strong correlation. You can see that in studies that lack of sleep and struggling to lose weight are correlated. Actually, if we're not getting sleep, if we're not sleeping well, we have a 50% chance or increased chance to get viral infections. That's huge, 50%. And then if we're sleeping less than 6 hours, we have an increased risk for so many things like infections, insulin resistance, so that's leading to diabetes, obesity, heart disease, cancer, arthritis, mood disorders. All of those things are linked in research, you guys, to getting less than 6 hours of sleep at night. And if we're getting short sleep, what's happening is it's really messing with our hormones. And so we have hormones that help us with our appetite. And so if we are getting short durations of sleep, it's actually increasing the hormone that increases our appetite. So we're going to want to eat more, and then it decreases the hormone that suppresses our appetite. So we're eating more if we're not getting that, quality sleep that we need to be getting. And then we really need to be getting through those sleep cycles. So we get into our most deep sleep the first third of the night, and then we get into our dreaming states that last third of the night. Dreaming is so super important for our body, you guys. That's when our brain actually consolidates our memories. It starts to support emotional healing. And so if we're really thinking about emotional health of ourselves, of our family members, of people that we might be of service to, this is really important. And so we really want to think about those things for sleep. And then also, of course, just tissue repair and muscle building and protein synthesis, and all of those things are happening when we're sleeping. And so it's really not just about do I feel tired? All of these processes are happening when we sleep. And so we really need to tune into that. So what do we do about it? So lifestyle supports, right? Really being mindful of what's coming out in the evidence about sleeping pills. And so I know that that's something, and you guys know my stance on medication. I'm not anti-medication, but I do think this is really, really important for people to know. Because I think that there's a dependence out there, and I'm not necessarily saying that for anyone tuning in here, but I think it's important information for you to know if you are supporting people who may be dealing with this too. And so there's a lot of evidence coming out, you guys, that prescription sleeping pills really actually have more of a risk for cancer than smoking. So that's huge. We need to see what can we do about it besides just relying on that synthetic medication to support and to put our body through the cycles, or try to put our body into that. There's a lot of other things that we can do first. And so I want to share those with you guys. So nutrition. Nutrition is so important, you guys. There's actually a lot of talk out there in the literature about considering actually having our largest meal being the middle of the day. And so that we're not really trying to have to get through a heavy meal at the end of our day. And so that's definitely something to consider. Definitely limiting your sugar and your caffeine. You guys, before I really started digging into this natural lifestyle, I had no idea really honestly, what recommendations were for sugar. Of course, we all know we shouldn't eat too much sugar. But I actually was pretty floored when I started really looking at it. The recommendations are that men should not have any more than 9 teaspoons a day, and women should not have more than 6 teaspoons. When we think about teaspoons, that actually seems like a lot, but 1 teaspoon is 4 grams. So we're saying that women should only have 24 grams of sugar a day. You guys, I've picked up yogurt containers with more sugar in a serving than that. So it's crazy. And I think that we really have to start being mindful of that. And if we start thinking about that, we'll start to allow our body to be able to not need those things. And so I think that, it's not judgment information that I'm sharing. I think it's really information that I was not aware of. And I think we don't talk about it enough in our country. And so I really want to get that information out to you guys. And then other things like crowding out late night snacks, and crowding out just means that you're choosing some other things instead. So you can do things like, yoga, journaling, connecting time as a family, those kind of things that are meaningful to you so that you don't have to go towards that snack. Because the reality is that we're probably reaching for those things because we're tired, not because we're hungry. And so crowding out's a great way to do that. And then also making sure that you're getting your hydration early in the day. So we want to, of course, stay hydrated throughout our day, but if you can get more of it in the beginning of the day, then we're not dealing with, those ups and downs necessarily to the bathroom at night. And speaking of that, be mindful actually of some of those sleepy time teas, because that is kind of misleading in the sense that you would want to do and use some of that to help you fall asleep. But if you're consuming more liquids right before you go to bed, that might be a problem too. So just be mindful of that. And then environment. So environment is something that we can definitely look at for sleep. Getting the clutter out of the bedroom, removing electronics. I know that's really, really hard, but I think it's, we talked about the blue light and some of the light and the sound and those kind of things. Some people have found they fall asleep to that sound, but maybe there's some alternatives to that so that we don't have to have those electronics in the bedroom. And then reducing exposure to light and sound. And so just kind of being mindful of what's there in the room. Of course, using your diffuser. And so I'll talk a little bit about some blends that I like to use for that, but it really helps to set that calm atmosphere, as well as some blends that you can use to open up your airways, because we need to really make sure that we're getting the right amount of oxygen as we are sleeping. And then just clean air plants. There are plants that you can use in your bedroom to really help you make sure that you're having that clean air in the room. And then planning your bedtime, right? So trying to go to bed and waking up at similar times every day has, in the literature, really shown us that can be beneficial. And then getting off our screens before we go to bed. So the Sleep Foundation does recommend that we are off them as adults an hour before bed. If that's not possible because of a job or some things we're doing, definitely using the blue light blockers and turning down the light significantly can support. And then for kiddos, the Sleep Foundation is saying 2 hours before bed. I know that's really, really hard sometimes for some families because of all the things that might be doing, homework might be involved, that sort of thing, but just really being mindful that that is what the literature is sharing. That's what research is really showing can have an impact on the brain. And then making the plan for how long you're going to sleep. And so I'll give you guys some things that are out there. So 18 years and older, we should be sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night. 11 to 17 should be sleeping about 8.5 to 9.5. 6 to 10, 10 to 11 hours. 3 to 5 years, 11 to 13 hours. 1 to 2 year olds, 12 to 14. Unless, younger than that, it's kind of about around the same. It varies from like 15 to 16, I think. So that's a lot of sleep, you guys, that, maybe we're not always getting that. And so I think it's definitely something to start to be mindful of and kind of think about how we can get that in there as much as possible. If you are having difficulties with sleeping, I recommend doing a sleep journal, seeing if you can start to notice these things in your body. So some things you might check into is like, how many hours did I sleep? What was the quality of my sleep like? What was my energy during the day? Did I struggle like when the alarm went off, or was I able to wake up more naturally? Did I stay awake when I was tired instead of going to bed? What's your physical activity like? How much caffeine did you have? What time did you have that caffeine? Like the activities that you did before you went to bed, and then actually tuning in, like, do you remember your dreams? Kind of interpreting what that has meant for you. And then you just, after about 7 days, if you can kind of look at patterns and you can decide and reflect on those kind of things for yourself, were there things that you would want to kind of tap into? And it doesn't mean we have to make all these changes at once, but if you can start to look at those patterns, you can start to see kind of what matters to you, or even for your kids, if that's something that they're struggling with too. So let's talk about some oils and routines that you can put in with all of these different lifestyle choices that I was talking about. So getting into your routines throughout your day and relying on your oils throughout your day are really going to naturally support all of these things that I've talked about. And so just a general idea is if you can use like your citrus oils, your leaf oils, and your mint oils, those are going to give you the energy support that you need throughout the day versus some of those other kind of stimulants or sugars or stress eating kind of things that we're looking for. You can try those instead. And then using your florals and your woods and your roots, even our resins like frankincense, those are really relaxing and grounding and actually restorative to the body. So those are ones we can definitely be using to help kind of calm us down and bring us down at night. And I do really encourage you guys to connect with your blends. Figure out which oils you kind of have a response to emotionally. I have my ones and I switch them out honestly because I just kind of go to them and I take the rollers and kind of see what's vibing that day, and that really does support. And the more you get into that practice, the more you're actually going to feel what I'm talking about. It really does help to get through those routines and be able to have the energy you need to do the things that you want to do what's important to you. So I was just kind of telling you like the general categories that those oils fit in, so you can start to pick those on your own. But just to give you some ideas of the ones that are really calming for sleep: lavender, vetiver, Roman chamomile, cedarwood, juniper berry, and then actually bergamot and wild orange. And even though those are citrus and we talk more about those for energy, they actually really are balancing for the brain. So combining those with some of the calming oils are a nice way to settle as well. And then our blends, of course, like Serenity, which is our restful blend. And then my all-time favorite, Balance, for sure. And then you guys have heard me talk about Breathe. So Breathe and Serenity are kind of our jam for our diffuser at night. But those are definitely good ones to use. You can diffuse them. You can put them on your clothes. You can even make, like I have this Sweet Dreams spray that I spray on the bed linens. And it's just Balance and Serenity in there. And then don't skip out on massage, right? So you can do just nice, gentle things for yourself as well as for the kids. So you guys know I like to take my Balance straight from the bottle, put a couple drops in my hand. I'll massage that in, rub the back of my neck, and then put that on the bottoms of my feet. If you guys have trouble staying asleep, actually, I was learning that DDR Prime, which is our cellular complex, can actually be a really good oil to help you stay asleep. And so rubbing a couple drops of that with some fractionated coconut oil on the bottoms of your feet can be helpful for staying asleep. And then layering some of these oils. So if you're trying to think of using them for the kiddos, layering them with some fractionated coconut oil can be very helpful, and just getting into a bedtime routine for them as well. So that was a lot of information, you guys, but I wanted to kind of share the why behind it, because I think it's easy for us to just get into routine and, oh yeah, I want to use this and this is what I'm going to do. But I think it's really important if we think about the why behind some of these lifestyle choices we want to make. It's going to make it actually sustainable, and we're going to want to do that for ourselves and for others more long term. And so that's why I thought it was important to share some of the literature and the research out there. You guys know that I kind of really enjoy that information, but I want to get that out as well, because I think it's really important for all of us to know those things so that we can have and be empowered and have the information we need to make those choices. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, you can jump on over to sbellwellness.com and you can grab my contact information, reach out anytime. And you can catch all of these classes over on the YouTube channel. I do record and upload them so that you can catch them later if you want to go back to anything. All right, so thank you so much for joining in. Please let me know if I can support you in any way, and I will see you at the next class.